Hey, hi, how are you? I hope all is good. Now, what I want to talk about is safety terms because they can be confusing or how we use them can confuse others. I did a previous video on this and I'll leave a link in the description, but suffice it to say, words matter and how we use them can make a difference in our safety management system, but even more importantly, they influence our health and safety culture. So, yes, safety words matter. But for a few more reasons, one right off the bat. If we're not communicating properly, then we might not be adequately controlling hazards and protecting workers. Now, the other reason is the workplace itself. The workforce is fluid. There's no more borders. In fact, with recent immigration and what seems like all time highs in immigration, in many countries, it's not unusual that there may be several different languages spoken in the workplace. So words really do matter. Now, take for instance these two, practical and practicable. You might see the two terms used interchangeably, synonymous, if you will, but really and truthfully, they're not. Here's the question. When you create safety programs, do you want them to be practical or practicable? So let's talk practical. Practical can mean relating to practice or being put to good use. So it's kind of basically a verb. Practical, but realistically, it's not the same as practicable because practicable is much more narrow. It means capable of being put into practice. So you can think of a wrench as being practical, but using it might not be practical or practicable. Look, I'm getting mixed up in some aspects. If you were to use it to fasten screws, well, it's not practicable. Okay? Essentially, practical is useful and practicable is doable or feasible. Now, another example would be it is practical to have a step by step procedure for every task so you can take a practical approach to reducing injuries by prescribing every single step a worker is to take when performing tasks. However, if the prescriptive direction is too granular and not allowing for any flexibility in areas where there's little risk, workers likely won't embrace such a program and therefore it won't be practicable. So, once again, replace practical with useful and practicable with doable, and it fits. So, the answer to the previous question, when you create safety programs, do you want them to be practical or practicable? Well, you need to create practical programs that have a good balance of prescription and flexibility that keeps you in compliance with the legislation, and one where workers will adhere to the procedures because they're not cumbersome but actually practicable, which makes the whole process both practical and practicable, useful and doable. So, this brings up two more terms, and they're often seen as synonymous, but after I share my thoughts, you might not think so. Anyway, as they pertain to health and safety. What I'm talking about is compliance versus adherence. Now, as far as it goes, depending on the context, both can mean something very similar. However, think about it in the safety context, especially as it applies to safety culture. If you're building a healthy safety culture, one where everyone wants to do safety because, well, it's the right thing to do, where you're building a culture where safety leaders are prevalent throughout your organization. Kind of the purpose of this channel. Well, you know what? You're going to have folks that are adhering to your health and safety policy and its subsequent rules and related programs versus complying with them. Are you confused? Okay, look at it this way. Compliance often has the connotation of being made to follow because there's a penalty if you don't. When we think of legislation, the law, we think of complying with it because if we don't, there's consequences, and none of them are pleasant. However, if we have a healthy safety culture, wouldn't you think that everyone is following your processes out of desire rather than the threat of consequences? So that's where adherence comes in. If you're creating policy or policy statements, you should, if you're striving to have culture over strategy, and you should be doing that because culture will always throttle strategy and wipe the floor with it, then you should be writing something to the tune of this. Company XYZ requires employees to comply with all applicable legislation and expects adherence to the company health and safety policy and its related programs. Because when you do that, you have a healthy, safe safety culture, and the workforce will willingly and out of desire follow the health and safety policy and its programs. Creating a culture where adhering to safety processes is a must is the result. If you don't have that, then you have an unhealthy workplace. But here's the question: do you have a dangerous workplace or an unsafe workplace? And that brings me to the next two terms that even government OHS authorities use interchangeably. But are they? Here's where I have the problem. I don't like the term refusing dangerous work. I prefer refusing unsafe work. And there's a few reasons why. The first one is dangerous means full of danger. Unsafe, however, is without safety or the opposite of safety. Now, if you think about it, no matter what, there's always going to be some inherent dangers in what we do. Some things may be more full of danger than others. However, having said that brings me to like number two. We can correct that unsafe situation by controlling hazards. It's really not that difficult when you think about it. Dangerous is full of danger. Can we remove the danger? What's causing the danger? What's creating the danger? Whereas unsafe typically means the absence of controls for hazards present in the working environment. So if we control the hazards, then we can make the working environment safe. So, really and truthfully, what do you think? What do you see as the correct term? Is it dangerous work or unsafe work? Let me know below in the comments. I appreciate it. Here's my thing: employers need to look at identifying, assessing, and controlling hazards. Doing so creates a safe working environment. So, considering that, doesn't it make sense that if there's an unidentified hazard in the workplace or an inadequately controlled hazard in the workplace, it is unsafe. Therefore, workers can refuse that work in many different jurisdictions. But no matter what, danger and dangerous becomes a confusing issue unless you think of it this way: not identifying hazards, not assessing them for risk, never mind controlling. That's where the true danger lies. That's what makes it dangerous. In short, when we're approaching work and being pragmatic about it, then we're removing danger. Yes, because identifying hazards and assessing them for risk and controlling the risk using a hierarchy of controls, that creates a safe workplace. But just heading into work without any safety leadership approach whatsoever, that's when it's dangerous. Dangerous is something formed out of ignorance and negligence. Now, if you want to know more about hazard assessment, check out this playlist up here. I'm in the middle of a live learning course on hazard identification, assessment, and control, and new videos will be added to this playlist until it's done. But that foundation of health and safety, hazard identification, and assessment is safety leadership. Safety leadership is not rushing headlong into work, but approaching it pragmatically, doing that right thing and protecting yourself and others in the workplace. So do that. Lead by example. Be a safety leader and provoke safety, doing that right thing regardless. Okay? Take care. Bye for now.